And welcome back to AFA Today on this Tuesday, the 8th day of October. Fred Jackson sitting in for Kevin McCullough. The standoff continuing in Washington, D.C. The president contacting House Speaker John Boehner this morning, saying, "I will not negotiate." This coming after John Boehner had apparently made it known public that he had not put any lines in the sand. He was willing to sit down and talk to come to some kind of agreement on a budget and the debt ceiling. But apparently that is not going to happen, at least at this hour. As we have mentioned, the president due to go before the cameras again in about 35 minutes. I expect he will have the same thing to say once again, that he's not going to be held hostage by the Republicans, his language, not mine, and that he is not willing to negotiate. We also wanted to bring you up to date on what's happening with regards to the impact of the so-called partial shutdown of the government, in particularly national parks. Just continuing, World War II veterans not allowed to go into their memorial park in Washington, but as we reported just a few moments ago on the National Mall, which is also a national park, apparently the National Park Service, under pressure from Democrats, allowing today a pro-illegal immigrant rally to occur there, a rally to try to encourage government to grant amnesty to the millions who are in this country illegally. The National Park Service, okay, no problem. We'll let you in here. We're not going to put any barriers up to you. Nancy Pelosi going to be one of the attendees there. And then some pretty scary stories continue to come in with regards to the impact. Stories that you're not going to hear from President Barack Obama. He keeps talking about, oh, this is a wonderful thing for people who can't afford insurance up to now, Obamacare. But we're also starting to hear stories from people who just make a little too much to get those government subsidies that are being promised to millions of people. Those people, and we gave you one account of the couple from North Carolina, where they have found their premiums triple. And why is that? Well, here's why. The insurance companies are now being told under Obamacare that you cannot reject anybody with pre-existing conditions. Now, we predicted this even before it was made law, Obamacare was made law, that somebody would have to pay all the extra costs for taking care of those people with pre-existing conditions. The insurance companies would simply pass those extra costs on to others. And this is what's happening. If you make above a certain level, your premiums are going to go up. Remember the president promising, if you like your current health care system, if you like the plan that you have now, it's okay. Well, that's going to discourage a whole bunch of people when they see their premiums tripling. And by the way, their deductible stays the same. Other people are finding these things out as they go on these exchanges, which opened about a week ago. And, of course, again, you're not hearing those stories from President Barack Obama. You're not hearing those stories in the mainstream media. But, folks, they're happening out there. Socialized medicine costs a certain group of people a whole lot of money, mainly the upper middle class. The very wealthy people out there, the millionaires, they're really not affected by this all that much. They can still afford their premiums. But it is the hardworking middle class that's making just enough to disqualify them from government subsidies. They are going to pay the price for this massive, massive government takeover of health care in this country. 888-589-8840 is the number to call. Let's go to our phones. And first to Neil in Virginia. Neil, welcome to the program. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for having me on your show.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the main difference I've seen between the Democrats and the Republicans is that the Republicans are not playing the same game. They're playing tic-tac-toe, and the Democrats are playing chess. They're trying to put out fires as they go, and the Democrats are thinking 12 steps ahead, and they just can't keep up. And it's an outrage of what's happening in this country. And my rally call to the people of America is: wake up, look at what's going on around you. If you're saved by Christ, if you know God, it's your responsibility to do something responsible for this country and bring it back and steer it back in the right direction. Run for office, run for Congress, run for Senate. I don't care if you're a store clerk, work in the bookstore. It doesn't matter. If you don't have any money, you can get backers, you can get Christian backers to back you and run for office. We need to get these clowns out who are not doing their job and they're playing games. It's an outrage.
All right, Neil. Well, appreciate your thoughts. I understand part of the problem for Republicans right now, there is division in their camp. One thing you can say about the Democrats, they seem to be at least singing from the same page. The Republicans are somewhat divided on this. The other factor in all of this, and you cannot dismiss this, the mainstream media is on the president's side. There's no question about it. I come in every day to work and I read the headlines in the secular media about what's going on in Washington, and you only get positive spin with regards to the president's side of this whole debate and the Obamacare side to this whole debate. You do not get the other side to it all. So that's the other kind of challenge the Republicans are facing, is when you have the mainstream media on your side and promoting only the positive aspects, or at least putting a positive spin on what the president is doing, that's another challenge. And sadly, the reality is there are still even many conservatives in this country and Christians who get their information through the mainstream media, the NBCs and CNNs. So they're being fed this propaganda, and that's why the Republicans have this great challenge as far as getting their message out. So it's just part of the reality that's out there today. Thankfully, you do have other media like American Family News, AFR Talk, American Family Radio, that does give you the other side of the story. Let's go to Texas. Welcome to the program. Please. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hold on. Are you speaking to Rosalind?
Beg pardon? Yes, I am. Go ahead.
For Rosalind?
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was calling about the assembly of the illegal aliens, and my thought is, and by the way, I'm sorry. Thank you for having me on your show.
Okay.
But I believe, as you say, it's in the Constitution that you do have the right to assemble. So that's a difference, and I understand what you're saying about the veterans. We all should be able to visit our national parks, and they're not actually assembling. They're wanting to visit and tour in the national park. I believe that would be the difference versus that it's just the Democrats and groups that are supporting Democrats and the presidency. And the other thing, the way I feel is, for the longest, the president has made concession after concession after concession since his office became into office in '08. Towards the Republicans, towards Congress, Senate, and we have had nothing done. I mean, the rating for the Congress is the lowest it's ever been, and so the Republicans now coming to the point to where they want to, all of a sudden now they want to conference, they want to negotiate. Okay, the president has been trying to negotiate with them for the longest, and here we are now with a shutdown government, and it's affecting everybody. So you can't just say the president is standing in his word. It's time for him to stand and say, hey, I am the president. I have been trying to negotiate. I have been reaching out an olive branch for them for the longest, and you guys have to do your job. You decided that you wanted to play this game, and when you have the majority of the American people saying, do not shut down the government, at what point are you supposed to say, I'm going to stick by my constituents versus what's good for all of America?
Okay, Rosalind, I want to respond to you. I'll let you listen off air. Number one, what we're saying is I don't have a problem with treating all people equally. The problem with the situation going on with the national parks, which was the first thing you addressed, is that a special concession is being made for this pro-illegal alien rally today. A concession is being made to them that is not being made to the World War II veterans. All right? That's the problem, the double standard. Now, number two, with regards to your claim that the president has been willing to negotiate, not so, especially on the number one issue of Obamacare. He has never made any concessions on that. The only concession he has made is that the employer side of the law, he's delayed until 2015. And one needs to study that concession a little bit. It just happens to get them by the 2014 employer, 2014 election. And the employer mandate, which forces all companies to provide health care for their employees. He's delaying that for a year. He also unilaterally, after the law was passed. Now, remember what the president has said in the last few days. Obamacare is the law of the land, the accepted law of the land. Well, after it was passed, when the Democrats controlled both the Senate and the House, and of course Obama was in the White House, after it passed, he added hundreds of pages of regulations himself. And as I say, he unilaterally decided to change Obamacare, but he's refusing to make any changes being proposed. And by the way, the major thing that the Republicans have demanded is a delay. To delay, just like the president decided to delay the employer mandate, the Republicans are saying we need some delay to look at the repercussions, the cost of Obamacare. As we just pointed out, there are people in the middle class, not wealthy people, people in the middle class who are making just enough to put them outside the range of the government subsidies that are saying our rates are tripling. That's the impact on us. See, so they're making enough that they're saying we may not be able to afford any of these government plans. We just don't have enough money to do that. Yet people that the government has deemed need help, they're going to get the subsidies. The taxpayers are going to have to pay a huge sum for, let's call it what it is, socialized medicine. Remember, the president's real agenda, you may have seen those videos, his speeches from back a few years ago. Harry Reid making the same comments. They're saying what we want is a single provider of health care in this country, and that is the federal government. And when the federal government has complete control of something, watch out. It gives them tremendous power over the people. And that's why a lot of people have resisted it. And there are some people out there who say, well, the Republicans don't want anything in the way of health care reform. That has not been the case. I remember when George W. Bush was president, the Republicans were proposing what's called tort reform as a way to deal with the expensive side of health care in this country. Tort reform simply being, let's put a cap on the amount of rewards the courts can give an individual who has a complaint against a hospital or a doctor. Because the liability insurance that even a general practitioner's office is paying these days is just ridiculous, and they have to pass those costs along to their patients. So nobody is saying that the healthcare system in the United States is perfect. Let's not touch it. But Obamacare is a step towards the government taking over healthcare and healthcare insurance in this country. And as we have said so many times over the last 4 years, we have examples in Massachusetts. We have examples in Britain. We have examples in Canada of where socialized medicine has not worked. All right, time for one more call before we have to go to another break. Let's go to Lisa in Louisiana. Welcome to the program, Lisa.
Hi, thank you very much for taking my call. I listen to AFA and AFR any chance I get.
We appreciate that.
As to the Obamacare law, it's a bad law, but making it law doesn't make it good for the American public, and we need to recognize that. I'm very, very proud of our senators from Louisiana who are working very hard, as well as the House of Representatives, to remove the administration-chosen exceptions, such as accepting members of Congress and their staff and the White House administration from participating in Obamacare. And I believe that this president talks about blackmail, but he is actually blackmailing the American public, such as in his shutdown of the national parks. And I emailed poor Bruce at the end that's been shut down inside the national park and gave him my support and said, when we're in the area, we'll use your end to try and make up for what is happening now. But I don't know how many people know that a particular catalyst to stir action among the administration may be that the White House is part of our national park system. And my suggestion would be to everyone get out of the White House, go use a warehouse because visitors can't go there either, just like they can't go to the Blue Ridge Mountain Park. And if a particular Democratic senator from Arizona is suggesting that oil and gas lease operations stop on land owned by the National Park Service, I would use his logic and say, fine, if visitors can't go to the White House, then vacate the White House until it's all over with.
Mm-hmm. All right, Lisa, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I think to Lisa's point, it appears to be the agenda of President Barack Obama and the Democrats to use the American people as pawns in this. This is an ugly, ugly game. It's become this way, and you're hearing this more and more. I mean, we've heard reports, it was in the Wall Street Journal last week. The Democrats want to make the American people as miserable as possible, and then, of course, blame the Republicans. That appears to be the game plan that's underway right now. And at the moment, there doesn't appear to be much in the way of compromise. You're listening to AFA Today. Fred Jackson sitting in for Kevin McCullough. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Want to hear from you, how you're being impacted by this, and what side of the issue do you come down on? And what is the resolve here? What is the answer? Is it all the Tea Party's fault, as the Democrats have been saying? 888-589-8840. We'll go to our phones right after the break.